everyone. Thanks for coming, and also thanks the organizers. Um, can you hear me? Um, Organizers for inviting me to give these presentations. The topic actually I choose on lipid nanoparticles. This is actually area that has grown very rapidly. Just to give a background myself, I joined this company just about 2 months ago. I worked for BASF for more than 18 years. Before BASF, I worked in liposome company in Princeton, New Jersey, right after my PhD, postdoc as well. I was teaching also in the university briefly before I joined the industry in 1994, the company called Liposomes company. So I have been actually in this area for a long time with BASF for the last 18 years. I've been working on the surfactants, sets, emulsifying system, polymeric, micellus, also amorphous dispersions area, that has been really widely viewed as a necessary tool to increase the solubility of the drugs. Many molecules, they are coming up in the pipeline, they're not soluble, right? So that I've been working in this area for a long time. And it is a immense pleasure actually to be here in Dubai to give a talk on the part, on this topic. So when I was invited by, Victor, I said, definitely I would like to come and, give this, talk. The area that actually our company is working. So I would like to actually give a brief intro about the company, what we do, right? So so that way, what our expertise are. So we talk about the intro, about very briefly on the company's profile, and then we can take a deep, dive into the real technology. Why so important? The solubilization is so important in a drug delivery, because if the drug is not soluble, you cannot increase the bioavailability of those molecules, right? So if nothing is solubilized, it will not be bioavailable, and therefore, if it was a drug, a molecule, it will come, process, cytotoxicity or subtoxicity of the drug. You cannot use actually those molecules, right? So there are technology, the non-conventional approaches, beside the micronizations, the pH change and making salt formations. So here actually we are looking more, how we can increase solubility. And the company, is going to take you right into the different areas that we have, specialized. But just to, allow me to, share a few slides about the company, the Ascendia Pharma. This is a very young company, 10 years old. It started, back in then by Jim Hong, my boss, based in New Jersey, where all the pharma industries actually are located. There are a lot of, area, if you're not familiar with this New Jersey area, and this is about an hour drive from New York City. We are expanding. We have 60,000 square feet. So you can see this growing. We have added a lot of GMP suits, and we keep, adding more and, more. And hopefully, we'll have enough for in 2023. By next year, we'll have the more capabilities to commercialize. So things are going actually. I joined this company at the right time after, I have seen this company grow, because before I worked with BSF, so I have visited this company for some time. So I know the scientists are working on the, using the BSF polymers in the past. Now I'm working for this company for the last 2 years. So this is really, in a nutshell, we do have, number of, PhD scientists. You can see out of 48, we have more than about close to, 20, PhD scientists, and keep hiring more people, more formulators. We have also a very good, strong analytical team as well. This gives you more actually more background. I will not really go through all the information here, but basically it is a CDMO, contract drug manufacturing organizations. We are focusing on class 2 and class 4 drugs, because I said 90%, 80% drugs coming out of the discovery in the pipeline in the industry, they're not soluble, right? So if nothing is solubilized, it can be bioavailable, right? And our core business is also in those areas, because we have the technology that we can help the industry, the clients. A lot of clients, our clients are, very virtual, maybe could be very also small. They have fundings available, from the investors. They also like to bring these molecules in much faster, and these are all new molecules, right? And there are few also working with the complex generic as well, by 505(b)(2), we call it. So yes, you can see we have really, very engaged with the industry, the clients, and this is really the area that we like to focus more on, called the solubilization. How can increase solubility, right? Um, so the three technology that I'm going to talk, I will not in half an hour, talk 40 minutes. I will not really get into too many details, but at least give you, some of the information about on this technology. So we have three platforms. One we call the Emusol, the other one is called Emusol and Emersol, and the other one Nanosol. So these are, we have fully patented technology. We keep also increasing our IP's position in this technology. We have also like to collaborate with the university professors. We can, further strength, IP, positions, because once we have the IP, also, the other clients, they feel comfortable because that's, we license, we can license this technology, right? For the last 3 years, we have been also listed in 5,000, the list. So it's really, it's growing rapidly. And I have seen myself, from the other side, work with excipient company like BSF. So we can see this comes with the, with also the in-house capabilities we have in Medi. So you can start, you can bring the molecule, you can formulate, reformulate, we can also formulate, we can develop the, the test methods, analytical, you can validate the methods. So we can see we need a lot more people, right? And as we have more projects, more people will have. And and also building or capabilities, like GMP capabilities. So we all are, in the areas that we're focusing, for the different modality, and also different, drug delivery, whether it's oral, topical, but also the parenteral. There's a lot of interest in the parenteral area, as you know, long-term, long-acting injectables, right? So, and we have the technology, we can find the right, compositions, right, I'll come back to those, lipid nanoparticles, atopics, how you can increase the, the delivery of those molecules. Let's see. Okay, this is much better. So we can see in this case what we have. This chart actually might be familiar to you. Drugs, they are poorly soluble. They are very, very poorly. They have very high content, right? So the factor that's responsible for increasing, poor solubility, high melting, right? Drugs is like a crystal, like basically they like this energy between the molecules, and they are very strong. So you cannot really break those molecules. So unless you hammer them very strong, you can micronize it, of course, right? And then you can make it strong, smaller particle, increase surface area, and then you can further increase the solubility. Right? That's a conventional approach, right? So idea is how you can make it more soluble, and this depending on the log P, log P is the impartition coefficient between the organic and the liquid phase or aqueous phase, and we can choose this in a certain technology. So for example, if you're using amorphous dispersions, typically they have very high log P, but also if something, the lower log P, you can use the lipids and nanoparticles, right? Or you can, so we call nanosol and the, Emersol, right? And there's a lot of interest also in the microemulsions, so how you can increase solubility by emulsifying, using the surfactants. They can further emulsify those molecules, and they can, they can encapsulate in the microemulsions, and they can further absorb, faster, right, in the GI tract. The nanosol, of course, that's we can make, you see, it's something that also I can use if you have high melting as well, but also I can further increase solubility by making, nanoemulsions as the nanoparticles, right? So this we can see in this slide you're talking about this technology. We can have different modality, different applications as well, and these are all actually in one way. I mean, you need to understand, right? If you have a client comes to us and said, this is the molecule you want to take it to phase 1, and this is your actually responsibility. Come up with a plan. We like to take it to phase 1. we look at the, first we have to go to the PK, right? Exposure, right? Without exposure, you cannot really find out what is the bioavailability of, right? So you can formulate anything, but if there's no PK profile, you cannot, expose to a certain level, then you really may not be able to develop these molecules, right? So that's the key, because you don't want to also supersede the Cmax, because, if you have the, too much Cmax, what happens? It can also be cytotoxic, right? So to the cells. Okay. So the key is actually, so we can have all these different, the dispersion system. We can have the nanoparticles and also the nano micro emulsion system. And the key is actually, of course, the application to increase solubility and viability. Some, can use in long-term injectable products as well, right? So if you're using IV or intramuscular, you can, how it's going to be absorbed. But if you are taking the GI tract, taking tablets, capsules, then of course, what viability also is challenged, right? And we can also have for test masking. There are many applications we can use for pharmaceutics formulations as well. So let's look at the, the one in the area that has been really grown very rapidly among dispersions. In this area, I have worked for a long time, with BASF, my previous company. We had so many polymers, as you know, BASF carries so many polymers, so many also surfactants and lipids. So these two areas, the surfactant-based lipids and also the polymeric, micellar, and then on the dispersions. And the key is how you can really, these molecules, since they're very high melting, you don't want to melt the molecule, right? So we're using the hot melt extrusion or speed drying, and we're using the capability, basically converting the amorphous dispersions, right? That's really the key. Why you really doing it? Because we don't want to expose to, of course, the the high Cmax, but also you want to keep maintain the drug in the saturation for a longer time, right? So you might have heard the parachute effect using the the screening effect, right? Something that dissolves rapidly and then crashes back, right? So, for example, if you take a molecule dissolving in a solvent, it's still that you can increase the solubility, you can be on, right? But then it will crash immediately because it's not really cannot really suspend it, cannot sustain in the aqueous environment, right? So maybe thermodynamically might be stable, but kinetically will not be stable, right? So the key is how to maintain this saturation. So these polymeric dispersions, where the drug is fully converted, amorphous state, for the meta-stable state, of course, you can stay there. But then how you can stabilize those molecules in the meta-stable state in a polymer, right? That's really challenging. And how you can really maintain the stability for the next 2 years or 3 years in the tablet form. So you're developing, tablet or capsules, how you can do that, right? So I can see then, with the nano dispersion, nano solutions, and nano, suspension, we can still increase solubility, not as to the extent we like to further enhance the solubility by amorphous dispersion. So this is the technology the whole industry actually, if you're using spray drying in HME, hot melt extrusion, we do have the capabilities of the spray drying, or the co-precipitation is another area people are using. Called the anti-solvent approach. You dissolve the drug and the polymer together, and then you crash right in the very cold environment in aqueous media. It crashes, it forms the amorphous dispersion. You can filter it, because not everyone has the, the spray dryer, not everyone has the hot melt extruder. So we have this capability in house, and if you have some, just some projects, of course, we like to talk, So this is just a simple example. You can use different polymers, and some of them, the BASF has all these polymers to make the PVPs, and also they call it VS64. That's PVP VS64. So these are all you can make, you can extrude it. There are different kind of equipment, but again, it requires a lot capital expenditure to have to buy, not only buy the equipment, but also you have to know the technology in house, right? You can buy any equipment, but you have to also train people, right? We need resources to maintain those equipments, right? So we do have these capabilities also in house. So just the key, how we really increase this solubility as well as the increased bio. This one example in drugs, you can say in this case, increase the bioavailability many fold by using the amorphous dispersions, right? So this is one example, but there are many examples, right? So I don't want to really, get into just, give you just flavor, right? How you can really expose these molecules to, to increase solubility, right, in the GI tract, right? The other technology that we have called Immunosol, there are, we can use surfactants, lipids, we can use even polymeric micelles. They are also very, we have blocksmers we had in BSF. People are using a lot of blocksmers, right? Increasing solubility, right? Because they all have found micellar structures, they encapsulate, and the particle size can be controlled by many ways, right? By microfluidic, the homogenizations and many other technologies, right? So you can, yeah, and then also you can make in long-term injectable products. So this there's one area that has been really quite exploited, and also there are many products. It's called the sets, self-emulsifying system. In this system, you have to use quite a lot of surfactants, it's right, to dissolve, not only dissolve but also emulsify faster, right? So faster it emulsifies, the smaller the particle it is, based on the surfactants you use, the amount of surfactant, and that can further, penetrate the GI tract, the mucous membrane, and further can get enhance the bioavailability as well, right? It can be also for the test masking. The many applications you can use, particularly in pediatric formulation, because the kids don't like, so there's a lot of work going on in pediatric formulation as well, right? So we do have this technology that we can, we are helping our clients coming to us. So lipid nanoparticles just gives you actually just brief introduction about the lipid nanoparticle, because it also gets, the term gets very confusing. I have been in this area for a long time. I did PhD in lipids and lipids and all those since mid 80s, and have seen this area grow actually very rapidly. I was just talking to professors here. It started in my career in 84, 85 in the lipids area, and then worked for the company called Liposome. And then now you can see over the years, then the whole area of the lipids, they faltered, for many years, after many years, and then now it's again reviving the whole area, right? With the vaccines, COVID vaccines, and all those, right? So the lipid has come up to life, because it wasn't actually the case in between. I started making, but it has been, when I joined the industry in 1994. The liposome company, that was at the height of, of the liposome, because people were working how you can encapsulate those drugs in the liposomes and deliver effectively. The caveat was, you don't want to use too much lipids. You want to have the, also the deliver effective without, causing any cytotoxicity. Because, if you're delivering paclitaxel, for example, is highly potent drug, right? And, we need to, work with the design a system where you can able to really effectively encapsulate. So this is a really progression. We just recently published a paper. I just copied this one. So there's some information is available. If you need this paper, I can send it to you. These two terms actually come, you can see the progression happened over the years. Liposome, was first developed by, Bengham, published in Nature. You could see there's a bilayer structure. If you take phospholipids, just put in, water, emulsify, you can just, mix it by just sonication, it forms a bilayer structure, and you put the drug, it goes in the bilayer, encapsulate in the liposomes, right? It's very simple. You can extrude it, you can size it, you can, we can many ways, we can make it smaller particles from MLVs to the SUVs, small, laminar vesicles. And then the area now further progress. And now we're talking about the lipid nanoparticles, right? Lipid nanoparticles, particular, there are two different ones, SLN and also the NMC, which is the, the saturated, lipid nanoparticles, and the other one is the non-structured lipid capsules are the carriers, so the number, so you can see these are particularly, if you look at the vaccines, they have this kind of cargo, right, inside, the messenger RNA basically is encapsulated inside with certain lipids, they like cationic lipids, and further actually encapsulated, and the structure outside is hiding, it's hard, right? It has a cholesterol and other phospholipids, it makes it more stable, right? So if you're making a very stable nanoparticles, you don't need much of the phosphate, the surfactants, right, and the lipids, because there's more drug loading into those nanoparticles. If you look at the liposomes, very less amount, because that's really the challenge of liposome. versus lipid nanoparticles. Just to be clear here, because drug loading is critical, but also the lipid nanoparticles, they may have their own the hindsight, right? Disadvantage, right? So it goes all by what we are looking, what you want to do. Just a little bit focusing more on the the SLN and also the LLP. What you see here, the inside, how the drugs are. So you can see this in the saturated system, which is the SLN, the solid lipid nanoparticles, where the drug is of course encapsulated, but not to the extent we see in the latter part, right? The non-structural lipids, like lipid carriers, right? The more of this drug is it's encapsulated, but also you can see on the top, if something is very saturated, it can also further do the expulsion, right? During the stability and other, as we squeeze, it contract, you can able to also further squeeze outside the drug. So that's really the challenge, with the one of the others. But again, of course, this one is more established, better stability, the lipid capsule. So, and you can see the particle size is also in the maybe slightly smaller, but more or less very similar in particle size. 150 to 100 to 200, maybe 140, 130, depending on what you're looking at. So it's all depends. It's all relative, but they're all within nano, a few hundred nanometers, like less than 150 and 100, 200. Okay. So here we're looking at one example. I mean, there are many other examples. We're looking at the nanoemulsions. We can, with the small molecule SME and our biologics. So you can do all the, micro emulsify effectively. And it's very simple, actually, what you call the formulation approach. It's not really, I would say, the rocket science. If you know the area, it's very simple process. You can mix the drug, you can surfactants or lipids. And then you can add the aqueous, or you can dump it in the other way around, and you can further homogenize it. A very simple process, right? The only thing, whether you look at the stability, how stable they are, right? You don't want to have the drug, crystallizes, as the time goes on. So the not only the thermodynamic, but also the kinetic stability is also very plays important, right? So you take this molecule and throw in water, look at the kinetic profile, the release profile. You don't want to also crash immediately, right? To make sure it maintains the supersaturation for a longer time, right? That's like I said earlier, so these are all important. You can see in this case, it maintains, the area under the curve is much higher than we see here, right? So really, it increases tenfold in the bioavailability. Okay. Any questions? I'll give a pause here. I would like to ask any questions here. Any questions so far? Okay, I'll be here, yeah.
I have one question. When you make this extrusion, you get the excipients and the AP in the solid form. Everything is in the solid form.
Right.
Then you mill it, or what you're doing?
You're not, yeah, we can homogenize. Yeah, of course, yeah, we have to do.
Really?
Yeah, right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Right, absolutely, yeah. Any other questions? So this is just one example. Again, this is showing the concentration of the right in the conversion, right? So oftentimes, if you have drug, the polymorphs, right? And if you remember, in this case, actually, well-known example of Norvia, right? From AbbVie or Abbott, when they launched this product in solutions, right? Back then, many years ago, many years ago, the drug was converted to amorphous into the different polymorphs. And what happens, the one polymer has the different melting, the other one, right? So what happens then, the stability changes, and then the potency will change, because higher melting, different polymers, then change the. So this is likely when you have certain example of the drugs, like we have the clopidogrel, and that you can also look at the you can minimize also in the conversion from. So this is really another example of this drug Plavix. This is an example that brand new Plavix drug, and then you can further minimize by using the the nanoemulsions, right? And we do have the pattern on this one as well. The other technology that we are actually is can solve. Again, we have to have the patent. There's a lot of interest in the long-acting injectable. So if you're developing the oral formulations, was in the was the injectable, we do have the capabilities. We can even further help our clients depending what application they're looking. We do have also topical in-house capabilities as well. So the process itself is very simple. Again, you can take this the RNA, you can take the drug, you can encapsulate it, and you can also the high pressure homogenization, make sure the temperature is controlled, because these genes are the RNAs are very temperature sensitive, and also so these are all actually can be done in house, and you do have the so I can't really disclose too much about because you work for the clients. And we have signed the country, CDA or NDA, so you cannot really, but it's very easy to encapsulate those molecules, right? We can control the particle size. You can make whatever the size you're looking, and also make sure the if you're working with the polypeptides, particularly this is an example of polypeptide where the protein doesn't nature, right? Because if the conformation changes, and in nature, then it's no longer active. So you need to be also very mindful. Particle size is one thing, but also make sure that you're not damaging, the structure of the molecules, right? This is with PLGA. We do have the, this is an example. We work with the client. PLGA has been is biodegradable polymer. There's a lot of interest in the PLGA, as you know, for the long acting, because they encapsulate. We can do fund microspheres, and those drugs, can be released, slowly, right? So you can see this one example, the slow release versus the faster release. You can see how it takes about more than 7 to 14 days, right, to release. In other cases, less than for less than a week, everything comes out, right? So we can control the particle size depending how we make it, right? And also the PLG, composition of PL, the lactic acid versus the glycolipid, right? They are different, right? So we can also choose depending the PLG grades as well, right? So these are all you can manipulate the release profile by changing the ratios as well. This is another. I really again I talk about the messenger RNA, but this is another example of the lipid nanoparticles. The one we had, the nanostructured lipid capsules of the carriers. Here is using DOTAP. DOTAP is actually positively charged lipids, and it's also vaccines. If you look in the COVID vaccine, they use that kind of positively charged lipids, helper lipids. And this is just one example, of the particle size. Right? If you look at the particle size, very small, right? Less than 100, about 100 nanometers. And here we also use the viscous surfactants and solvitan as well. This one actually just recently published. This is an example of the drug carbidopa. So this is looking at the injectable, right? Because it's look at the correct tablet. The carbidopa is available in the tablet form, but there's a challenge with it can also have some serious side effects as well. So people are actually working the injectable. There's no other injectable product, so we work with our client. They help with the client coming with the long term, like injectable product, right? So for this, you can see the tiny particles. They're pretty tiny. This is for the oral application. So again, you can make depending on the clients what they're looking, and if they go with the oral, you can also make the oral suspensions or nano nano suspension. So you can see the oral suspension for the depending on the fast state and the passive step and also the passive. Again, these are the bioequivalent media or biorelevant media. And we can able to really control by changing the particle size, nano versus micron. You can see on the top is a smaller particle, it gives more exposure by reducing particles. Whereas micron size, it gets less exposure, right? And it's also consistent, so they can see, can control the even the food effect is also could be challenging, right? So this particle size reduction also can change the food effects as well. So we can go on and on. I don't have to give too many examples, but we can see this is an example. We can how to make the liposomes, the nanoparticles for injection. So you can see in this case, we look at the different formulations. You can size them. It's very easy to, like I said, make those nanoparticles, and we can also do the DSC on the left side. You can see we can look at the same picture as well, how they look like. We can also use not only the one ingredient, the APIs, but you can use multiple other things as well in the liposome. How you can really, we can also people also do antibodies, right? Certain things we can do there. So people use antibodies to target certain diseases, right? Because you don't if you're injecting a liposomal drug, and with it can go everywhere, right? So, but if you have antibodies in tether attached to this, in the liposome area, you can also deliver more effectively because you target the certain cells where are disease cells, right? So you can really kill those tumor cells. So this area that has been really grown very rapidly. The lipid, the nanoconjugates and so forth. So just to actually, I would like to summarize. There are many examples, but just to give you a snapshot. So I wanted to just give you just an overview about the companies and also the technology where we are actually at. Again, drug delivery area is growing very rapidly. We will have the Ascendia offers the different platforms for our clients. They're either working the oral formulation, injectable, or even the topical. And we do also have the sterile and non-sterile capabilities. GMP, because not every a lot of CDMOs, they may have capabilities to formulate, they can add the formulator, but also adding the GMP, it brings extra actually on resources, right? So we are again we have those GMP facilities both for these aseptic fillings and also for the non-sterile as well. Lyophilization as well. So we do have capabilities that we can help our clients. So the Ascendia actually stands for best, the brilliant technology, the excellent service, the superior quality, and also the trust, right? So these things, our selling points, I would say. And again, we have been listed in 5,000. So with that, I would like to open up actually for any questions you might have, but you talk to me, it's a small meeting. So I'm available, you can send me an email, so I'll be here.